Alright guys, today's video, I want to tell you about a great deal I found at Walmart. These Strike King 3/8 ounce true grade swim jigs are only $2.56. That's a pretty good deal considering that most jigs are over $4 and $5. Most time that I buy the jigs, they're $4, $5 jigs. And you get in the box 2 trailers, 2 Rage Menace trailers. As you can see, 2 Rage Menaces. Pretty good little swim jig trailers. I don't throw these all the time on my swim jigs, but I've really not even used the Rage Tail Menace that much. I have used Rage Tails because they are a pretty good trailer, but the weed guard's not that great over most jigs, but for $2.50, it'll, you could stand to lose a few. But the hook's a little thin wire. It's not really a thick, heavy gauged hook on these, from what I could tell, but you can't expect much for $2.50. It does have a good trailer keeper, a good little wire. I like that setup because it keeps your trailer in there good and solid. It does have a standout skirt, so you get that nice pulsing action on those. They got them in, the bluegill pattern, green pumpkin, red, and use some of your purples. Then they also got them in a white, solid white with some little flake in it, sparkles to give a little extra pop. And you also get the 2 white Rage Tail Menaces with it, and the black and blue. And that black and blue does have a little, little color pop on some of the black. Give it a little different texture with a black and blue flake. Rage Tail Menace. Pretty good little deal for $2.50. I mean, you can't hardly find anything anymore for $2.50, especially when it comes to fishing stuff. But it does have, the bullet shape head, which is a must on a swim jig. I mean, yeah, you could swim a football jig, but, really, you can't hardly, you'll fight this football jig, to keep it up all the time. But this right here with this bullet shaped head, it kind of puts it like a keel on a boat. It, puts it on plane and kind of keeps it pulling up a little bit. But the weight will keep it down, but it won't, it'll keep the head up. And they come through cover really well because of the line tie on the top. It helps out a lot. They do have some pretty realistic little eyes in these. They're pretty good. If you can see that, I'll put it up. That's a pretty nice little jig. It does have a little thin wire hook, but for $2.50, it's definitely a good buy. I'm not real keen on that wire, that weed guard, because it is kind of flimsy. But I'd say it would reflect some wood, and that's where I catch most of my fish on a swim jig, is when you contact something. And I do love swim jigs. I absolutely love them. That's probably my #1 bait that I throw. This is what stays under the seat of my kayak. I'll get all different colors. And this is my favorite trailer to throw on a swim jig, is these Excite Baits Raptor Tails. This is the Raptor Tail chunk, and they have amazing flapping action in these. and they float. So when you drop that jig down, you know, say sometimes you want to fish that swim jig and you want to stop it and fish it, you know, let it hit the bottom. You found a good rock, you know, it's there. You drop it on top of that rock, and that will sit there, you know, it'll sit there with these pinchers just up in the defensive position. And I do like that. With this one, I have a rattle on there, you know, you pop that you know, you fish it, you'll kind of pop it, and you'll hear that little rattling. You can hear, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's got a little rattle there in it. I like those, just a little bit, you know, a little bit different action sometimes. And I do like these. These are the Hack Attack swim jigs. Now this is Kitech swing impact, you know, great little trailer. I use these all the time, and sometimes I'll even rig them. Let's see if I can find one upside down with the boot going up, and it'll give you a different presentation, and it'll create more lift sometimes if you want to fish it shallower. I do like that, you know, switch it up sometimes. And which these got a great keeper on them, but I still like to put a little super glue here, and just to keep my presentation or my trailers, because Kitechs are not cheap at all. You know, I even use the Raptor tail. This is the Raptor tail, regular Raptor tail here on my chatterbaits. I do love those trailers for, you know, when you want a crawl presentation or more flapping action, because those flap like crazy in the water. And, you know, best way to fish a jig or a swim jig is, guys, just make sure it has a standout skirt. You always want that, because if you don't have a standout skirt, you don't really get that pulsing action of the skirt. You know, you can see here as you kind of shake it up and down a little bit, it gets that pulsing action into the water, and that's what kind of gets you a strike sometimes. Sometimes it, you know, it's just the erratic action of it. Yeah, you know, you either got 3 trailers basically, you know, like the Race Tail Menace, you know, that's a pretty good one. It does pretty good little flaption action, but it's not as, you know, nothing like the Raptor Tail Chunk. That's a big profile too. It gives you a bigger profile and more action. These give you a little bit less action, and it all depends on the, you know, the water temperature too, on what action you really want. You know, in the summertime, you want big time, you know, flapping more, because they want that bigger presentation a lot of time in the summer, sometimes in the spring too. But you just got to figure out what they're looking for, what they're wanting, what they're feeding on. During the bluegill spawn, you know, I'll throw this color here, or, you know, I do like this color here a lot too. I do like that color. That'll be one of them I'll throw over there in the shad spawn, or the bluegill spawn, because bass are up shallow and they're feeding on those bluegill when they're trying to spawn. It's all about, you know, the trailers, the water temperature. And water temperature, you want it less action when it's colder, because you want less action, because nothing really, you know, they prefer a slower moving bait, so you want a little bit less action. There's only 3 colors. The 3 colors that I bought in that Strike King, that's the only 3 I ever fish, is green pumpkin, black and blue, and white. That's the only 3 swim jig colors that I ever fished. You know, there's a lot of them out there, a lot of them, you know, different colors, and same thing with chatterbaits. You know, that's the only 3 colors I buy in a chatterbait too, is, you know. green pumpkin, black and blue, and white. That's a pretty little jig right there. That's another Excite Baits Raptor Tail Chump. I just love that little trailer. You want a high-speed reel, because when fish hit this bait, dude, they just engulf it and they run. And most of the time they're running at you. So you need to catch up with them. And, you know, you got to have a high-speed reel to do that. Most of the time, it's just dead on solid strike. You know you'll sometimes they'll knock slack in your line on these things. And you want a good, really good rod, like an 80-20. You know, good backbone, but you want a really fast tip. Pretty much a spinnerbait rod is the way I like to, you know, what I would throw a spinnerbait on would be, you know, 80% backbone, 20% tip. That way, when a fish hits it and you do get to load up on him, you know, you don't want to set the hook and then, because, you know, these are 3 gang sounds heads, and when they come up on it, they're going to engulf it, and that head can, you know, pop their mouth back open, and, you know, you'll not knock it back out, and you might not get a hook, might not get a good hook set on it. So, you know, you want to try that. And line, I always use 30-pound braid. Always use 30-pound braid. On super clear water, I may put a fluorocarbon leader in on it, but most of the time I'm fishing, I'll throw these and I'll just drag it through the gnarliest cover I can find, and they come through. You know, you got a good heavy weed guard on there, and it comes through the heavy cover. You know, you just you want it good. And if it's, you know, not ultra clear, most of the time, if it's, you know, 7-8 foot, you know, water clarity, I'll just get me a black marker and color my braid and just color it up, and it basically almost comes invisible. You know, 30-pound braid is ultra tiny, guys, and it's really not that. And plus your bait's moving fast, and when you hit a cover, you know, most of the time that bass is there, he sees that, you know, dart a different direction, he's just going to munch on it, because he really ain't. It's a reaction strike, so you really want that. And you got to, you know, I think you could catch fish just reeling it. You know, it's just like a spinnerbait. You could probably catch fish like you can on a chatterbait, but on a swim jig, I like to get my rod a little bit of pulse, and that way that skirt just kind of pulses back and forth. You know, it just kind of does that number right there, and it kind of pulses in the water. And it makes it, I think it does a little bit better, gives you a little bit better action. And I like to skip mine a lot, because where I fish, there's a lot of trees and a lot of wood. And if you ever noticed, say you seen bait fish up on the top of water, you'll see them kind of skip across the water. When they skip across the water, that's what that swim jig is. You can skip it really good, because that head, when it skips, and that gives you another way to attract a bass, because bass are aware of all vibrations in the water. That's the reason why I like a kayak, and I don't like pedal kayaks, or, you know, because that is more vibration in the water. A lot of people don't realize that, but yeah, a pedal kayak puts off more vibration than when I'm paddling. And when you're sitting there moving, I can maneuver my boat faster than a pedal kayak can, because I can turn my boat any way I want to with a one paddle stroke, you know, and they're sitting there fighting with it with a pedal, because, you know, you can't do it that way, because it's not possible. You have to move with a rudder. So that's the reason why I like a paddle kayak better than a pedal. But that's a different video, you know. And I really like I'm getting off tangent too. So, but the skipping part, you know, you skip it, and that's another attractant to get that fish to bite, because, you know, sometimes I'll skip it back up to the bank and there'll be that fish there, and when it skips, as soon as it stops and it starts to fall, that's when that fish will munch on it, and before you even get time. And that's another reason why you need a high-speed reel, to reel up that slack that you got and be able to set that hook. And that's the reason why I like some of the trailers that I choose, like the Excite baits, which is, you know, I don't know what they put in them, but I use some of their other trailers and they just don't want to let go of it. I think they would absolutely swallow these things by themselves, you know, if they was solid. And this is the Rage Blade, which is a great thing to throw around wood. The chatterbait not so much, but the Rage Blade comes through wood better than a chatterbait. And this hangs up in weeds where the chatterbait doesn't, but that's, you know, we'll talk about that in a different video too. The more action you can, you know, the pulsating and stuff that you can do with these, the more strikes I think you'll get. And you don't have to work yourself to death with it. Just if you got a good 20% rod tip, you know, that just a little bit of action with your hand a little bit, and that rod will do all your work for you, because that rod will just go to town once you start moving it back and forth. But you got a stiff rod, you'll work yourself to death. That's the reason why I like that lighter rod. And just get you some swim jig, guys. I mean, if you haven't fished a swim jig, start out with some of these right here. You know, that's a great buy. $2.50. I mean, you know, I do prefer the Strike King Hack Attack. You know, you can see a big difference in that hook gauge on these. You know, that's a pretty good difference. Well, not really a whole lot. It is a little longer, but it does have the same keeper, basically the same skirt, just the wire, just the weed guard is a little bit thinner. You know, the paint job and the eyes are basically the same. I think that's the same head. The only thing I see different is they just use the same mold on that. Oh no, that's a little bit thinner. How is that a 3/8 and this is a 3/8? That looks a lot thicker. I don't know. Which this would probably be better in weeds because it's a lot thinner profile than this one. So, you know, that might be a little different for that. But swim jig is, I always have one tied on. Always. That is my absolute favorite lure to throw. You know, I think I have a few football heads in here, but if I'm, no, I don't even think, I might not even have none in here. I think they're in the other box in the back. This is, but I hardly ever throw a football jig. You know, sometimes, you know, late summer when it's 905 degrees outside, you know, and the fish are so lethargic and they don't want to move that much. And you have to drag it right by their head, super slow, for they'll slurp it down. But the swim jig, it's just, you know, like you can fish it like a normal jig too. You know, you can drag it. You can see where this one's been after this one so much, and drag it across rocks and trees. It's beat up to like crazy. But you throw these, you know, anywhere you, just like a normal jig. You can fish it like a normal jig, which it don't drag across the bottom that great like a football head would, but you can hop it. And with these trailers right here, I guarantee you it's probably going to stand up. It's probably just going to sit there. You know, if I got the GoPro. It's probably just going to sit there like that right there on the bottom. And those pinchers will be floating up to you. Try these trailers too, guys. I mean, Excite Baits make, and they're super tough. And they float. I mean, they do float. Like, I mean, if you lost this, if this trailer come off, which is hard to do because these trailers are pretty tough. They're not elastic tough, but they're pretty tough. And I have lost them off of a regular Texas rig on other baits, you know, and they float right up to the top, and you'll see them floating. They are phenomenal jig trailers. I love them. And I did see some, actually these are not Kitex. I forgot about that. These are actually the Strike King. I forgot what they're called though. They're the Strike King swim baits that just came out. I got these at Walmart also. They was $5 for 5. There's a pretty good, almost like a Kitex. The Kitex a little, I think a Kitex may have a little more action than this. Yeah, I think a Kitex, I'll have to put a Kitex on one of these because sometimes they'll, oh, that's rigged a little off. That's another thing, guys. You want to make sure that your trailer is extremely straight on these, because if you don't have your trailer, really straight, that'll make that bait kind of cock to the side a little bit, and it looks just kind of wonky float, swimming through the water. I like to keep it where it's super straight and straight up and down. But you also can flip the boot up on a swim jig on a trailer there, and it gives it a different action. It kind of makes it ride higher in the water column. But get you some of these swim jigs. I think those will work pretty good. Throw them around cover, make them hit a rock, make them hit that's when most of your strikes will come from. When you bounce off a cover, you'll bounce it off of a stump, a limb on a tree or something, and that bass will see that erratic action. That's when they'll munch on it. Now go get you some, check them out. That's a pretty good deal. All right, guys, I guess I'll go ahead and end this video. I've talked enough about my favorite outdoors. But get outdoors, go see the world. God's blessed with the beautiful, awesome world to go explore. Just get outdoors today, guys. I'm out.